Peggle. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ferret 64 podcast with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. Ferret 64 is, of course, the one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. Oh man, do we have an episode for you today? That's right. Wow, who could have guessed that I would have an episode for you today? We got new stuff I've been playing this week. We've got some news articles to cover, and of course, there's a bunch of coming soon, including a Ghost of Yotei. I don't know why I keep saying that. Yotei Direct. So, let's get started with this episode's first topic, which is, what have I been playing this past week? First game to tackle is the one that I was pretty excited about going into this year, and that was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4. This is a remake. It is a remake. It is definitely a remake. I mean, some people are confused. This is a remaster or a remake. It is a remake. It's a full-blown remake, much like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 was. This one being the third and fourth game. Now, the third game, it's pretty much verbatim, one for one, right? They just got the new system in there. You know, you can obviously do reversals while in this game, which I don't believe they introduced until I think the fourth or something like that, the fourth game or whatever. But essentially, what that allows you to do is to switch your stance, completely 180 your board, and then like do a manual or something to keep your combo going. And that was something I believe they introduced in the fourth game. I might be wrong about that, but they did add that into the third game. And of course, they touched up everything. They made everything look nice for the third game. The fourth game is where a lot of people struggle, and that's because it went from an open world game where you go and talk to people and you have objectives to a game that is more closely related to 1, 2, and 3. And 5, I guess, which we try not to talk about 5 around here. So what that does is it takes out a lot of that exploration, a lot of that, all the dialogue is gone from the fourth game, and a lot of the objectives have also been replaced. There's similar things in 4, but it's not a one for one. So it is a little bit disappointing that you don't get that free open world like experience, especially because a lot of those maps are really cool to explore. The water park and Alcatraz. I mean, Alcatraz is probably the best park that they've ever made in Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and it's just kind of like it's not really a shell of what it used to be, but it's a little bit less engaging because you're trying to do these objectives in like 2.5 minutes, and you don't really have the time to spend to just kind of like chill out with the map. Now, obviously, you can play free roam, so it's not like there's no way at all to play the map. But it's just one of those things where it's like you're going through it and you just want to maybe do a couple moves off of this half pipe, or try and do the stuff that's on top of the building, but you just don't have time for that when you're doing the objectives. So obviously, you can go back and free roam and play in free roam. That's fine. I'm just saying, as a person who played the fourth game a lot back in the day, it does take a little bit away from that experience to not get the objectives and the map to explore. So that's kind of the one thing that's pulling me back and forth here, because it's not detrimental to the game per se. I mean, I do know that people are a bit upset about this, but it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a remake, which means that things are going to change. A remaster is more of a one-for-one experience. So you could say that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 is more of a remaster simply because that's a one-for-one. But 4 is definitely a remake. Now, technically, they're both remakes because they're built from the ground up, but I digress. So at the end of the day, is this worth playing? And I say yes, it is definitely worth playing. If you liked Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2, if you liked how it felt, if you liked what they did with that game, they did exactly the same thing here. I believe they added in a multiplayer element, though, to this one, which is a little bit different. They added in the hawk, which if you don't know what that is, it's like horse except hawk, and essentially try and do a better combo than what the person before you did. So that's obviously a pretty fun time. They took out graffiti mode, which graffiti mode is one of my favorite things in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, at least from the first couple games when it was in there. Me and my friend, I think it was Gritty Waffles, we played that so much. I loved playing that mode because essentially you would claim territory for yourself. You would do tricks off of these things, and the higher score you got, the more difficult it was to get that piece of equipment. So if you're grinding over a rail with 100,000 combo, it's going to be hard to top that, right? But they took that out of this one. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I don't know. They just didn't have time. I don't know. But that's not like super, like I'm not like super upset about that because I don't really play the multiplayer of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Ever since the 5th game came out, I've really kind of stayed away from Tony Hawk Pro Skater multiplayer, which I guess is reasonable. But I do think that the game is really good. Now you might be wondering, is this a full review, Yemmy, or is this just your basic first thoughts as you normally do? And no, this is actually a full review of the game because I slammed this thing over the past 2 days because I was really having that much fun with it. It didn't really matter to me that they changed 4 so much. I mean, obviously there is a bit of me that's like, I wish they didn't do that. But in general, when I was playing the game or while I was playing the game, I was just having fun with it. I didn't really care that it wasn't open world anymore for the most part. And it just kind of felt like a natural progression of the first, second, and third remasters or remake games. And the 4th game comes around, and I'm just playing it like those other 3 games. So, I mean, if you're playing all the games, not really in a row, but if you're playing them or if you have played them, you're not going to really notice a major change if you're a person who never played the 4th game. And I think really the only people who might have complaints are the people who, like myself and a lot of people, played the 4th game and they're losing the entirety of the open world experience. So that's kind of where people are probably going to differ from me, where it's like I don't really mind that the game is not open world anymore. I would like it to be for sure. I still have those memories with the old game, and I still have all that fun with it. I would love to buy like an original copy of the 4th game to just kind of like relive some of those times. But the fact of the matter is that while I was playing the game, I wasn't really missing that part of the game as much as I was expecting to. I played through they give you like 2.5 minutes to race around the track and try and complete as many objectives as you can or get the highest combo you can and, find the secret tapes and all that. And then you just kind of like, you retry the level or you move on if you unlock the next course. And look, I'm no Tony Hawk Pro Skater master. Like, obviously, I don't think I've gotten first on any of those heats. They're called. There's certain levels set up as competitions, and you try and get the highest score you can. I think I've gotten silver and bronze on those mostly. So I'm not a master Tony Hawk Pro Skater at all. But the fact of the matter is that pretty much I think there's 8 levels to each game. I think there's 9 on the 4th game because they added pinball in there. But anyway, I did all the objectives for about 6 out of 8 of all those levels, and that of course subtract 3 from that because it's just the heats, the contest. But more than half of the levels I did all the objectives because I was just having so much fun going through and figuring them out again and going through them. Obviously, I had a little bit of memory in the back of my mind for the 3rd game for what was going on. They changed the 4th one around a lot, so it is a very fresh experience, I will say. But in the end, once you kind of get the gist of the 3rd game and the objectives they want you to do in the 3rd game, they do a couple of those things in the 4th one. I think they're a little bit more involved in the 4th one. Like, you do need to, there's like this whole, like, in the water park, they designed so that you can break off the valves and you can drain one of the pools and whatever. It's a little bit more involved. You need to search around, smashing the mascot signs too. They littered those around the map, and they're a little bit more difficult to find than the other ones. But for the most part, it was kind of like more the same. I guess I would say, and that's not a bad thing, especially for these remakes here, because I think the remakes do a great job of giving you that core original Tony Hawk experience while having the more modern control scheme and having a more modern way to control your character, which allows for a lot cooler shit to be done. Let's be honest. And I did actually go back and play a bit of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 before this game came out, just kind of reacquaint myself with the controls. And I got lost in that as well. Like I had already played the game. I don't know if I ever beat the second one. I mean, I got pretty far in it, but that's whatever. So maybe I'll go back and play through the Tony Hawk Pro Skater +2 part of that. But yeah, I mean, I got reacquainted with the controls, and that made my transition over to 3+4 a lot easier because I remembered all my stuff. And I also played the demo for the Foundry on Xbox Game Pass. I believe also they did the first level of the fourth game as well, the College Campus one. So they put out some stuff to give you a little bit of taste, maybe get it reacquainted with the controls, and then the game finally came out a couple weeks later, and boom, bada bing, here we are, and I'm talking about the game. So yeah, I mean, in the end, if you want like a short version of this, I think the game is definitely worth playing. It is a lot of fun. I mean, the soundtrack is great. There's a lot of great songs on there. They allow you to like pick and choose too. So if you don't like a certain genre, if you don't like a certain artist, you could take them off of the playlist. You can also do a streamer friendly mode where the tracks are all in-house custom made songs for the game, not copyrighted. So that's also really cool of them to think about, because I don't believe that was in the first 1+2 remake. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff there inside the game. But yeah, I was kind of doing like a bit of a wrap up, but I would like to say that the soundtrack is actually very well made, like very well pieced together. It has the elements of the original game soundtracks with some newer stuff, obviously for the kids in the audience, I guess. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of rap. I mean, I like hip hop. I like that. Those types of like NWA. I do enjoy their music, and but I'm not gonna sit here and look. I don't like rap though. I think rap is not my cup of tea. So there are a fair amount of rap tracks on there that I did take off of the playlist, but mostly I untouched the rest of it. I think the rest of the soundtrack is cool. They got CKY in there. They got Mastodon in there. They for whatever reason put 100 Gex into this game. Now, if you don't know who 100 Gex is, they're kind of like a quote unquote meme band. They do a lot of like weird stuff. And they put, I find it funny that they put like the one song that's a bit more normal than the rest of the songs on the album. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy 100 Gex. I think that they're fun to listen to. But it's a bit of an off the wall kind of pick in my opinion, but it works for the game soundtrack. That the song kind of sounds a bit punky, punk rocky, right? And modern, obviously. So. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I found myself enjoying the songs on there. If you find a song that you don't want to listen to, you can just press the right stick down and it will skip the song really quickly. Love that. And yeah, I think the soundtrack works quite well. So all in all, it's an enjoyable time. I really like the experience. Do I think that 4 should have still been an open world experience? Yes. I think a lot of people will love that. I understand why they did it, because 1+2 and then 3 is obviously, the same as 1+2, but 4 is not the same. So maybe using the engine for 4 would have been a bit more difficult, maybe a bit more work than they were willing to put into it. So they decided, okay, we'll just, make it like the other ones. Hopefully this means that if they do a Tony Hawk Underground 1 and 2 remake, or if they do American Wasteland or something like that, they will keep the open world in those. And I think that the backlash from the fourth game not being open world is great enough that they would definitely not try this again with like Underground, because Underground was like the first fully open world game. It wasn't like the fourth game where you chose a level and just free roamed it, right? It was more so like a real open world where all the areas were connected and objectives in each area. So I don't think that they will do what they did to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 for a remake of those games. But it's a wait and see type moment. And obviously, we're pretty far away from that even possibly even happening. I'm pretty sure Tony Hawk said that he wants them to do it, but it's who knows if they'll actually do it. And at this point, with the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, I do feel like remastering those older titles is going to be better than making a new game at this point. Like, even though I feel pretty confident that they could nail it, especially with the pinball level that they added into 4, I don't know. I just feel like at this point it's probably a better idea just to, just keep going with remasters or remakes, and if in the future the cards fall right, then yeah, sure, let's get a new game in the series. But I don't know if they're going to make a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 6, The 5th game kind of killed that naming scheme, so we'll see what happens. Other than that, great time. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I do recommend it. It's on Xbox Game Pass, so you can play it without any extra cost to you. I will also say that if you buy the physical version of the game, the entire game is on the disc. It has been confirmed that the entire game is on the disc, so if you're a collector out there, I've already added it to my wish list for when it goes on sale. Boom, there you go. Nice full game on disc that they can download. You don't have to download. You can just play it without having to download anything. Obviously, there's probably updates and stuff that they want you to download, but still, it's on that physical cartridge, disc cartridge. So yeah, very enjoyable. Definitely check that out if you have the time. All right, another year, and the EA Sports College Football 26 game has come out. Now, when I ended off College Football 25, I believe I originally gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And I reduced it to a 3, I believe. It's either I started at a 4, went to a 3.5, or a 3.5 went to a 3. And there was a lot of reasons for that, which I'll probably talk about here. Because in the small amount of College Football 26 that I've played, it really doesn't feel like they've improved anything. And now, as of this point, I haven't had time to play with Greedy Waffles or really dive into some of the other modes in the game that I did in the first game. But just playing some quick matches, it really just feels the same. And my worst fear has been realized, and that is that they just copy and pasted the code and updated for, the rosters, and they put College Football 26 instead of 25 into the game. And that was it. They wiped their hands off and said, all right, good to go. And my reasoning for that is because a lot of the issues that I had with the original game that I thought they could smooth out with the next one are still present here. Coverage is broken in this game still. You will still have the most broken coverage. The AI will not do what they are supposed to be doing. They will not block. They will not tackle. They won't do anything. It's so crazy. And that being said as well, the problem from the first game where the routes that the AI take to try and either, tackle the guy with the ball or whatever will also be off. They'll just be off. And by the time that you take control over that character or that player, they'll be a step behind and won't be able to catch up to the ball carrier. These things are still present in the game, along with a lot of reused animations. I cannot tell you how many times I watched the marching band guy do the I'm bending backwards move in 25. I was so bored with that move, and they show it at the beginning of every single matchup, and it's the same animation every single time. Also, another thing that I was very annoyed with, because as a person who was a member of the high school marching band that I went to, the high school I went to, all of the marchers are out of step. They are all stepping at different times, and I cannot tell you how annoyed that makes me. As a person who was in marching band, it is so obvious that all the steps are out of step. I mean, you're designing the game from the ground. Like, you literally can. You're literally manipulating the characters yourself. Why? Like, just make them all march in step. Is it really that hard? I don't understand. So that, along with the fact that the crowd has not been improved either. Like when College Football 25 was around, I was like, okay, this is something that they could work on, making the crowd a little bit more animated, doing this because they already had like the crowd meter and like sometimes they would zoom around the crowd and focus in on some people, right? It's just the same thing here. The crowd meter's still there. The crowd does not look any different. It's always 100% the home team's crowd too, by the way, which doesn't make sense to me. Okay, you're gonna have people coming in from outside of the area to watch these games. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's a couple schools that only have a home school crowd, but the fact of the matter stands that there's always gonna be some other people watching the other team in the crowd, whether it be family, friends, or whatever. And I've said the same thing about Madden, where it's all just like if you're playing at the Eagles Stadium and your home team is the Eagles, everyone's the Eagles. Well, same thing here. If you're playing at the Ohio State place, they're the home team. Every single person is going to be the home team's colors. It's like I don't get this. Why can't we have like some actual realism in here, right? Also, with that being said, there is really no tutorial in this game. It's been a while since I played College Football 25. I would like to freshen up my skills with the game, whatever skills I do have. And they don't have a tutorial in the game. So what happens is you start up quick play and they just put up text on the side saying like, "Oh, this is how you do an RPO. Oh, this is how you throw the ball. Oh, this is how you do that." It's a real quick glimpse, but it tells you how to do everything. You can't just go to like there's a training mode in the game, but it's all just mini games, right? It's all just some mini games, or you can practice plays, specific plays. There is no tutorial in the game at all, which irked me a lot because I just wanted to freshen up my skills with the game. I just wanted to remember how to do certain things. But now it's like, while I'm playing the game, I'm going to have to ask Greedy Waffles, who I'm playing against, "Oh, how do you do that again?" And he'll be like, "I don't want to tell you. That way I have an advantage, right?" So it's one of those things where like I just wanted a basic overview of how the game worked again, like how the special things worked in the game, but you can't do that. On top of all that, at least the soundtrack's pretty good. I mean, the main theme song has been improved a bit. Um, and there's a good amount of music in there, like special cadences and stuff for each college. I think that they did a good job mixing in all those things. Like now, it's not just like the one song for every team. It's they all have their own songs, which is great. That's obviously a good thing to do. Yeah, I just I don't know what's with this one, but it just feels like the Madden curse here. It really does. College Football 25 was a good stepping stone, a good first step for this series, the comeback. It felt fresh, it felt a little bit different, but the cracks started showing the more you played because, the rose-colored glasses come off and, you start to notice the things that irk you about the other simulation football games like Madden. And my rose-colored glasses were taken off at the end of me playing 25, and now the critical glasses are on because this is the sequel to your game. It's had a year-long development cycle at this point, right? What is going on? Why is there so much emphasis on the gambling part of the game with the Ultimate Team or the Road to the CF whatever, the CFP? Why is there so much focus on the Ultimate Team stuff? Once again, this is something that I think most people are fed up with. Why aren't these things that I had criticisms about in the original game? Why are they not fixed? Why are they not worked on? Why did you do nothing to this game other than slap in a new roster of players and call it a fucking day? That's really what it feels like. Because at the end of the day, from the limited time that I've played the game, I'm already a bit disappointed with it. And maybe next week I'll come back and be like, "Oh, I played with Greedy Waffles and we had such a fun time," or "Oh, I went and did the create a player mode and I went through the whole college, story mode type thing that they have in there again, and oh, that was so much improved." But as of this point, from just looking at the main menus and playing a couple of games, it just feels like it's the same game again. And to a lot of people, that's fine because a lot of people really like the first game. But to me personally, even though I liked the first game, there are still things that I would have liked to have seen changed up, switched up, fixed, improved, etc. But they did not do anything that I thought that they were going to do, which automatically brings this game down, in my opinion, because it just feels like another Madden title where they just did the bare minimum and they let it go. It's funny because this year Madden is like introducing like weather changing and stuff like that, and it's and they're probably gonna put more effort into this year's Madden than the last like 5 Maddens, because this is like the year that like the contract gets renewed, so they need to make sure that they really emphasize how much work they put into the game and then hopefully sell more copies so they can keep the contract with the NFL. Um, College football, we have about 5 years before that happens, I think. So we're gonna go through some fucking slop before we finally get a good college football game that has actually been improved, which is what it feels like right now. So sorry about being so negative about it, but it's something that I'm passionate about. I mean, football is like the one sport that I follow religiously, right? And I've been trying to get into college football more because it's obviously a whole different ball game. I was hoping that these college football games would kind of get me interested in back into them, but into the sport, into that part of the sport. But I just find myself being more annoyed while playing them, which in turn makes me not play them as much. So, someone like Shadur Sanders, who comes out of, through the draft to my team, I don't have that time with them in the game learning about like, oh, this is their stats and this is how good they were in college football. I don't really get that because I stopped playing that game long before the draft happened. So, yeah, right now I'm just like, the thumb is sideways and it's kind of starting to point downward, in my opinion. And if this is the way that college football is going to go, they just shouldn't have revived the series. And I'll leave it at that. All right, so we also played FBC Firebreak this past week. Pretty much finished it up. This is a multiplayer game, kind of in the same vein as something like Left 4 Dead, and also kind of mixing a little bit of a Dead by Daylight in there as well, but in the Control universe, which I thought would be kind of like a fun concept, but it just kind of comes off as a bit shallow. The objectives that you do in each of these levels is just so mind-numbingly boring that we couldn't get we literally wanted to quit after the post-it note the post-it note section, where you had to like destroy like 100,000 post-it notes, and I was like, this is just so boring. And the fact of the matter is that I feel like they wasted their time developing this game. I don't think this game is going to have any longevity, much like Back 4 Blood. Even though there's people who enjoy playing Back 4 Blood, people still play that, obviously. And I feel like the same thing is going to happen here, where FBC Firebreak comes out, has some good numbers at the beginning, but then peters out by the end. This feels like a game that a lot of people will play a couple rounds and say, well, that was something, and then quit, because there's really not much going on here. If you're a person who loves Control and you love Remedy, and you just have to play this game, I'm sure there's going to be things that you're going to find that's like, oh, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I really liked going through that and doing that. Like, obviously, the cool part of the game is going against, like, these, I forget what they're called in Control, but, like the anomalies in the game, right? You have the post-it note man. You have the, like, ghouls running around and the people floating in chairs and whatnot doing things. And, you have, like, this furnace, and you have to, like, throw this special chemical into the furnace to wipe it out, right? But it's just not interesting to play. Like, I think the premise is interesting. Like, the sticky note man, pretty interesting. The meteorites or whatever that you have to gather up with radiation, kind of interesting. But the execution is where the game lacks. It's just a boring, mind-numbing experience. And I know I called it slop, multiplayer slop, on GG, the app I use to track my games. And maybe that's a bit harsh. Maybe it's not exactly slop, but it does feel like a tired trend here, where we get multiplayer spin-off that just doesn't work. It just doesn't, like... It works, but it's just not fun to play. And this is a prime example of one of those games where it's like, it took a bit of a formula from Left 4 Dead and Dead by Daylight, and it mashed them together, and then it said, well, that should be fun, right? But then they forgot to add the fun into the game. Yeah, there's like 3 classes you can choose from. One's the engineer, one's like a water technician, and the other one I never played because I felt like he was useless. But the engineer, essentially, he can fix things pretty fast, and then the water gun guy, who's actually very helpful. We had to have a water gun guy in the game, They essentially put out fires. They put other characters out of fire, and then they also can wet the sticky notes, and you can destroy them more easily. So it's actually paramount to have a water gun guy on your team, which sounds kind of stupid, but it's true. The other guy, though, I felt like we never needed. I think he was like electric. He could do like electric stuff, and we never needed him. It was so weird. But why is this game Left 4 Dead crossed with Dead by Daylight? So the Left 4 Dead stuff comes in when you get like hordes of enemies chasing after you. You have a cartoony-ish style like character who's doing quips while you're playing, and essentially there's like special versions of like these mutants or whatever anomalies in the game, and you take them out, right? That's where the Left 4 Dead aspect comes in. The Dead by Daylight aspect comes in because you need to repair things and do tasks while trying to fight off this horde. And I guess Left 4 Dead also did that as well, but there are mini games inside of FBC Firebreak which are very similar to Dead by Daylight, where you're pressing buttons to fix like a generator for the first mission. So you're just tapping the buttons, or you're picking up ammo and you're tapping buttons for that. So that's kind of where the Dead by Daylight inspiration comes from. There's not like an overall like dude following you around or anything like that, which might have made the game a bit more interesting if you did have like a big boss following you around, but I digress. But yeah, essentially you tap the A and D on the keyboard, or I think it's like X and B on the controller, back and forth to repair, depending on what is coming down, kind of like Rock Band or something like that. And then you also like repair these generators, and then you get the power back on. There's also things on the walls that you can repair to bring power back on. There's also these stations that you can repair to get health, or not health, but get a shower to get radiation off of you or fire off of you. Or there's another one that's a ammo dump where you can just get unlimited ammo from it. There's also a safe room that if you repair the door, you can get into the safe room, get a checkpoint in the game. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's just very basic. It's very run of the mill. It doesn't feel special in my opinion. Like I was really hoping like the whole control angle would make it feel special, but it just doesn't. And by the end of the time that we were playing it, I said, yeah, I'm just gonna uninstall this after we're done, because there's no reason to come back to this. It's not entertaining. It's boring, and it just feels like it's just chasing a trend, and it's just not going to stick around for that long. And then, I'm not even going to get into the fact that there's like skins that you can buy in the game and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I don't, yeah. I mean, I'm glad that it was free on Xbox, or free quotation marks on Xbox Game Pass, no extra cost. That way I didn't have to spend the money on it, because I think I would have been very disappointed if I had spent like, $40 or something on this and only played like an hour. I mean, it literally takes like 3 hours to get through the entire game, right? Just very, very stupid. And also very, like, it felt longer because the levels were just so boring. They were just so boring. So there you go. FBC Firebreak, thumbs down. I believe I gave this one a 2, maybe even a 1.5 out of 5. It just really did not click with me, and maybe it'll click with you if you want an experience like this, or maybe you are a Control fan who just loves Control so much that you're willing to look past the faults of this game. But me personally, as a person who was kind of like, I was like, Control's fine. Like, I enjoyed my time with it. I'm not like super invested into the lore or anything, like, but even then, like, I do enjoy like learning about that stuff, and Remedy does do a good job of adding in like layers into their games, but this one just felt very stale in my opinion. So there you go. All right, we have one Sonic game to talk about this week, and it is Sonic Unleashed. This is the game where you can turn into Sonic the Werehog at night and do beat 'em up sections. So it's pretty famous for that. Famous for really swapping up the Sonic formula by having a totally separate beat 'em up mode in the game along with the regular Sonic levels. Now, personally, I was really hoping to play this game and be like, "Oh yeah, this is a hidden gem. It's so good. Oh man, people are missing out on this one." Kind of like I did with Sonic 3D Blast. I really enjoyed 3D Blast, especially with a joystick, right? But with Sonic Unleashed, I went into the game and I was having a generally good time with it. I was feeling it. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely like a hidden gem type game." But the farther I got into the game, the more I was getting annoyed with some of the mechanics in there and stuff like that. I think the beat 'em up stuff is probably the best that this game has to offer. I think that the Sonic the Werehog beat 'em up sections are fun. The combo system is actually pretty in depth, especially once you start leveling up your character. I was just having a good time with those sections. So the platforming is a bit janky, but I think in general, I think that the beat 'em up sections are fun. Maybe they get a bit repetitive, but I think that they're pretty fun to do. Plus, like finding the collectibles in those levels is a little bit easier than finding them on the regular Sonic levels. And if you want to talk about where the game kind of stumbles a bit, it's in these regular Sonic levels where the level design doesn't always hold up. Now, there's a lot of great levels in this game. Don't get me wrong. I really like pretty much both of the levels from the Chunyan, the China-inspired area. I think that those levels are really good for Sonic. The opening levels and the levels after that are pretty good for the regular Sonic ones. But once you got to, I think it was called Adabat, which is kind of inspired by Indonesia. The levels for the regular version of Sonic were just they were designed so poorly, and they had a lot of technical issues. Throughout most of the game, there's a bit of a frame rate drop through situation when things start to pick up. But it was the most apparent in this like opening level for Adabat, where you're like sliding across water and there's tons of enemies on the screen and you're just going from island to island, skimming across the water. The frame rate would dip so often and so much that it would make it almost impossible to control Sonic throughout these areas, and you would just sink into the water and automatically die. So I was getting very annoyed with that level, and that was one of the last levels we played. So already I was getting annoyed, I was getting frustrated, and then the final section of the game just took forever. The rest of the game is good. Like I was teetering on like a B tier for most of the game. The entire last stream that we did, where we did that level that I was talking about with the frame rate drops that were so bad I was unplayable, and then getting to this final section of the game, I needed to take a break. Okay, I will say that I needed to take a break. I did not take a break. I did take a break, but it was after my big explosion of anger, essentially. So I apologize that I just kind of ended stream without really any pomp and circumstance, but I was very frustrated at that point with the overall ending of the game because it just kept going and going and going. That being said, it was also partly because I was in a bit of a time crunch. I was expecting to be done with the game by 2:30. It was 3 o'clock, and I made plans to go see the Superman movie, which is very good, by the way. I went to go see Superman, and that started at 4, and I need to leave the house by like 3:15 to get there at a good time to get through concessions and find a good seat, right? So I was in a time crunch already, and it was just going and going and going and going. You would do like the entire last level, which was a 30 to 40 minute level, which had a good idea in there, which was switching time while you were inside the level. But it was just so long, and it just kind of kept going for what I felt like was forever. And then you get to like this final boss, quote unquote, which is the fight with Eggman, and that's like fine. It's quick, it's fine. But then you get to the actual final boss, right, where you go up against the Dark Gaia, and essentially what happens is you have Chip, the little guy who's with you throughout the entire game. He transforms into like a giant Colossus mech, and you control him, and you kind of like kaiju fight the Dark Gaia, and then every so often you run around as Sonic and take out the thing's eyeballs. And I thought that was the end of the game. They did like a nice CG cutscene, and then it kept going. So after that, you had to play as Super Sonic, and you need to speed towards a shield bubble and take out the little tentacles in the shield bubble. And then after that, there was another section where you took over as Chip again, and you did some more combos on the Dark Gaia. Then after that was the end of the game. And I felt like it was so stretched out, and I was just not, like, after I took a break, went to go to the movies, came back and finished it off, like, I finished the game pretty easily. I was calm, I was collected, and I finished the game easily. So my criticism about the end of the game is that it's a bit too long, and the fact that there's, like, if you want to quit and stop playing, if you do that, you get set back like an hour. It's kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you're fighting Sephiroth, and if you stop fighting Sephiroth, the last chapter that you boot up into is the one where you're on the freeway. It's like an hour back. It's ridiculous. So I did not want that to happen. So I left my console running while I went to go see the movie. Came back, picked up the controller, did what I needed to do, and finished it off stream, of course. So the entirety of the last stream for this game really irked me enough that I brought it down an entire tier. Now, I still think that it's much better than something like Sonic and the Secret Rings, even though I think Secret Rings in general ran a little bit better, which is funny because that's on the Wii. But I think that it is in general better than that game. I think it's more fun. I think the Sonic sections are better designed. I think the Sonic the Werehog stuff is a lot more fun than anything that Secret Rings did. The only difference is that Sonic and the Secret Rings had a better soundtrack than this one. Even though I like the soundtrack for Sonic Unleashed, obviously Secret Rings kind of takes the cake with that one. I was kind of blown away that the theme song was performed by the Bowling for Soup lead singer back when they were still like a pure punk band, which I thought was kind of fun. You know, just a little bit of a throwback there, but a bit of a nostalgia hit there. So, I mean, in general, I think the game is like it's fine. I was hoping that it was going to be better than what it was, but unfortunately, I gave it a 3 out of 5, and for the reasons listed, yeah, it just didn't really hit for me as I was hoping it would. The other thing too is that the PS3 version of the game requires you, and I think the Xbox 360 version as well, requires you to collect medallions while you're playing the game to continue on. You have to like level up your medallion ranks, and that stopgap for like it literally like stops your gameplay and makes you go replay levels to get those medallions. That was just not okay in my opinion. Apparently the PS2 version does not require you to do that, so I might go back and play the PS2 version down the road, just to maybe get the best experience. Because if the PS2 version is the best version of Sonic Unleashed, maybe I'll go back and play that and see how it is. But as of right now, I've played the PS3 version. It's not the best version of the game, sure. And obviously there's like the recompiled, like fan-made remaster that you can play as well. But, you know, in my first experience with the game, I wanted to play the original version. We did that. I had my complaints, but overall it was, you know, had some fun moments. I like the beat 'em up stuff, but overall I'm not like super over the moon about it. And the next game we're playing in the Sonic Marathon is Sonic 06. That wheel strikes again. Had me play Sonic Unleashed before Sonic 06. Sonic 06 is technically the game before Sonic Unleashed. We're just playing them all out of order, which, you know, in hindsight probably wasn't a good idea. But anyway, it does allow me to break up the, like, you know, I'm not just playing the 3D games in a row, or I'm not just playing the 2D games in a row. There's a little bit of a mix up in there, so that's of course a nice thing. But anyway, if you want to check it out, Sonic Unleashed is worth playing. Just the ending section is a bit frustrating, and the technical issues with the game are a bit overbearing at times. But other than that, it's a fun experience for the most part. Let's go ahead and move on to what's in the news. All right, so last week I talked about all the Xbox layoffs that happened, and Romero Games was one of those companies that had funding cut to it from Xbox. Now, I don't believe there's anyone laid off inside the studio, as I think I mentioned last week that like the entire studio was laid off. That's not entirely true. Just funding was cut from the studio from Microsoft. But Romero Games is still alive and well. They are just looking for funding for their next project. They were saying that, like, you know, it was right there. Like the game is pretty well along in its development time. We just need a bit more time to finish it off. So now they're seeking for alternative funding, whether that's through Kickstarter or through another company picking them up or a publisher picking them up. I guess we'll see. Romero Games is a bit of it's a bit of an up and down type company. Like, you know, they have some good games, they have some bad games. Like, it's just kind of how it goes. But I should say recently, last week, Romero Games came out on Twitter or Blue Sky and said, "We want to address the recent reports regarding the status of Romero Games. These reports have contained inaccuracies, and we feel it's important to set the record straight. The funding for our project was pooled, and our game was canceled. Due to the confidentiality agreements, we cannot disclose the publisher's identity, though some may infer it from public information. As a result, we now have to reassess the entire staffing of the studio. Romero Games is not closed, and we are doing everything in our power to ensure that it does not come to that. Any suggestion otherwise is factually incorrect. Indeed, we're in the studio today to discuss the next steps with the team. We've been contacted by several publishers interested in helping us bring the game across the finish line, and we're currently evaluating those options. We appreciate the outpouring of support, and we'll share further updates when we are able to." So it sounds like hopefully no one will have to be laid off inside the studio, or no one will have to leave the studio, and they will be able to pick up funding for the rest of their development time and continue forward. So I think that it's a good thing that they are already getting offers from other companies to help publish the game. And shame on Xbox for removing funding from the studio who was practically done with the game. I just don't. It just seems a bit stupid in my opinion. But yeah, Romero Games still alive, maybe not well, but alive, and hopefully they will get funding soon for their project. Also, Marvel's Blade, which was shown off at like the Game Awards 2023 or something like that. They just kind of showed. I guess they didn't really show it off. They just showed that it was in production, right? They were getting ready for it, right? It's been revealed that in Arcane's studios, who's working on the game, financial statement for 2024, that production of Marvel's Blade was launched at the end of 2024. The prototype was validated in 2023 by the publisher, Xbox, and they were, of course, allowed to take on a couple more people for the project and start working on it fully in 2024, at the end of 2024, into 2025. So that is the reason why we have not seen Blade at any of the Xbox showcases or any of these events, and it's simply because the game was just started full development at the beginning of 2025, which honestly is a bit scummy from Microsoft to put out there that they're announcing Blade in that Game Awards showcase 2023 thing. It's like, oh, here's Blade. Wow, this is a game that's in production. When it wasn't actually in production, it was actually not even started at the time that the Game Awards happened. They probably were thinking about it, but they hadn't actually done anything with it. So it's funny that Blade could have been canceled since it's that just a year ago could have been canceled if the prototype was not up to what the publisher wanted, right? So it's just kind of ridiculous that they showed off the game about 2 years early, and they must have just shown it off when they got the rights to be able to start producing it, right? I feel like they gave the studio, Arcane Studio, like, hey, you're going to be doing a Blade game. Can you just mock up something we're just going to mock up something to say that we have the rights and we're going to be making a Blade game, okay? But we're going to put you onto that, and people will be really excited. It's like, yeah, people are going to be really excited because Arcane Studio is probably the perfect developer, the people behind Dishonored and whatnot, and Deathloop, to make a Blade game, because I feel like the style will really mesh. Like, of course we're going to be excited. Of course we're going to want more information as quickly as possible because it seems like a pretty cool concept, right? But no, we're probably not going to get new information or any gameplay about this game for a couple years because it just started fucking full-on production at the beginning of 2025. And that's just like Microsoft to do that. Like, as much as I enjoy a lot of what Microsoft has been putting out lately and what they are going to be putting out, like, I think that Xbox Showcase made me pretty excited for what they have in store for us. Scummy practices and layoffs aside, I feel like they have a lineup of games that is worth talking about now. But they've always done this where they show something off and then you don't hear about it for like 5 years. Case in point, the Elder Scrolls, the next Elder Scrolls game. Who knows when that's coming out? Same thing with that Contraband game. Remember that? I bet you don't. It was just a panning shot of a table and then with drugs on it and stuff like that, and then it said Contraband or whatever it was called. Stupid. But then other times like the Indiana Jones game that came out within the year of them showing that off, or this this new game coming out, the one that was really cool looking. I forget what it's called. It was kind of like BioShock Infinite, Clockwork something. I forget. I'm sorry. But that game also, like, that's coming out pretty soon, I think. Like, they said coming soon, and they showed that off only like 2 years ago originally. So, like, yeah, some games they get into production and they're released pretty quickly. Other games take forever. It just doesn't make any sense, especially when it's an IP this big like Blade. Come on, you're gonna announce a game so early like that? And I'll be fair, Marvel's Wolverine, which is coming from PlayStation. Why the hell did they announce that so early? We haven't seen anything about that in like 2 or 3 years at this point. I don't know. Anyway, Blade has started production finally. It's been confirmed that 2024, 2025, they started production at the end of 2024. So hopefully we'll maybe see something in the next year or so. All right, so Subnautica 2, which was shown off in a gameplay reveal, I think it was like last year or maybe even earlier this year, has been delayed to 2026. But the former executive of the game, who I believe all the top three like CEO and executives that were working on the game were all essentially fired. Said that the game was ready to go into early access right now. They for whatever reason the publisher is pushing this game back for unknown reasons. And if you remember, I guess I didn't talk about this. I forgot to talk about this last week. But essentially, what happened last week was all three of like the big time people at the studio who were working on the game, helping to like form the game and lead their teams, were all let go because the game was not being produced fast enough. The developer or the publisher wanted the game to be faster. They wanted to put the game out and make their money, right? And so they put new people in place to possibly speed that up. Now, is that I mean, they delayed the game to 2026 now, so are they really speeding it up? I don't know. Maybe it's because they don't want the game to go into early access. They want to just release the game full blown, and they said if that's going to take another year to do that, let's just take another year to do that. I don't know. But I think that like an early access period, especially for a game like this that's open world crafting survival, you're gonna really want the player feedback. You're gonna want to see what people are saying and talking about, so that you can tweak the game and change components and maybe add some new stuff in before a final 1.0 release. And that's obviously the mindset behind the studio the studio behind this game, Unknown Worlds Entertainment. They essentially wanted to put it into early access so they can work on the game while the people are playing it and then get some feedback right away. But Krafton, who is the publisher behind the game, delayed it, and they gave some reasons for it, of course. But I just feel like it's just not worth me talking about that because, and this is going to be the craziest thing that you'll hear today. The team behind Subnautica 2 is suing Krafton Games. So, one of the people who was working on the game, Charlie, came out on Reddit and said, "Hello, everyone. It continues to be an explosive and surreal time for the Subnautica team and community. None of this is what we wanted, but we truly appreciate the amazing support we've gotten from everyone. It means a lot to us. As I wrote last week, we know in our souls that the game is ready for early access. That's just how we roll, and we like nothing more than for you to play it. Game devs live for this, but it's not currently under our control. We've now filed a lawsuit against Krafton. The details should eventually become public. You all deserve the full story. Suing a multi-billion-dollar company in a painful public and possibly protracted way was certainly not on my bucket list, but this needs to be made right. Subnautica has been my life's work, and I would never willingly abandon it or the amazing team that has poured their hearts into it. As for the aeronaut, the idea of that Max, Ted, and I wanted to keep it all to ourselves is totally untrue. I'm in this industry because I love it, not for the riches. Historically, we've always shared our profits with the team and did the same when we sold the studio. We can be damn sure we'll continue with the earnouts and bonuses as well. They deserve it all for their incredible work trying to get this great game into your hands." So, yeah, it sounds like Krafton maybe is trying to take away those incentives, take away those bonuses that they do for their games. I mean, it's hard. I mean, when the lawsuit is revealed, when all the details are revealed, I'll talk about it then. But it sounds like there was a problem, not only with the fact that they were trying to remove the heads of the studio who originally sold Krafton the studio, but also the fact that Krafton is trying to maybe take away some of these incentives, some of these profit sharings that the team had back with Subnautica 1 and probably that Below Zero game. So that's probably where the lawsuit is coming in. So I will keep an eye on that, and I will talk about that more when the lawsuit details are fully revealed. But as for now, just know that Subnautica's development team is currently suing Krafton, and we'll see what happens. Okay, Nintendo is officially discontinuing Switch game Vouchers in 2026. They're going to be completely gone. Why is that, you may ask? Well, on the Nintendo Twitter account, they said after January 30th, 2026, Nintendo Switch game vouchers will no longer be sold. Any game vouchers bought will remain valid for 12 months after purchase. Switch titles will continue to be added to the game voucher catalog throughout 2026. So what does this mean? This means that the original Switch is not going to have vouchers anymore after 2026. You will still be able to use the vouchers for an entire year after they're discontinued, and games will still come to the service if you still have those vouchers, but they're planning on essentially sunsetting this system. Now, does that mean that they're going to be introducing a new voucher system for the Switch 2? Honestly, I do not know. I would think that they are not going to be doing that because the games on Switch 2 are probably going to be worth more money. As it is, if you buy 2 vouchers on the Switch 1, you would save about $20 essentially in total for using the vouchers on 2 games, right? If you buy 2 $60 games, you would save about $20, which is a pretty good deal, all things considered. But who knows what they'll do on the Switch 2? Maybe they'll do a different reward system, maybe more akin to what PlayStation does, or maybe they will bring vouchers back, but it will be only for games that are like $40 to $50. Who knows? As of right now, we can speculate what the games are going to be that we will be able to use vouchers on in the future. People are guessing it's going to be like Rhythm Heaven, Groove, Tamagotchi Life, Metroid Prime 4, and Pokemon ZA, the Switch 1 versions of those games, not the Switch 2 versions. It's another wait-and-see type scenario because we really don't know what Nintendo is going to be doing with vouchers for the Switch 2, if they're going to do a new system, if they're going to do something completely different, or if they're going to do nothing at all. I guess we'll find out when there is a new Direct, which people are expecting it to be next week. Another wait-and-see type moment. But if they do take these vouchers away, I think people will be a bit disappointed. I mean, they are taking them away, so people are going to be disappointed. But you do have a fair amount of time to keep using those. Now, it's possible that Nintendo's plan is 2026 being the last year of Switch content, games being put on both Switch 2 and Switch 1. And that could be the reason why vouchers will be going away, is because they will not be putting any first-party games onto the Switch 1 after 2026. That is I feel like that's a pretty solid thing there, a pretty solid guess there. But once again, as I like to say, it's a wait-and-see moment, and we really won't know anything about this until they announce something new or it just goes away and we don't get anything else. So 2026, though, January 30th, 2026 is when they will stop selling the vouchers, but the vouchers will be valid throughout 2026. Essentially, if you buy 2 vouchers on January 30th, they'll be available until January 30th, 2027, which is pretty crazy, but there you go. Speaking of the Switch 2, GameStop is currently auctioning off its infamous Switch 2 stapler for charity. If you don't recall, a GameStop somewhere out there in the U.S. was stapling the receipts to the front of the boxes. And in my opinion, it's GameStop's fault for that, not Nintendo's fault. Because if you want to staple in the cardboard, you got to really slam that stapler down. And when doing that, of course, the staple broke through the box and hit the Switch 2 that was on the top. Right? It was a big debacle. A lot of people got their money back and got new Switches for free. So, GameStop is going to be auctioning off the stapler that was used during this whole ordeal, and it has been certified. There's actually a certificate of authenticity, which has been signed by the GameStop Chief Executive Officer. So, the certificate of authenticity, it says, this document certifies that the following item is authentic relics from a now infamous Staplegate incident, which occurred during the midnight launch of Nintendo Switch 2 on June 5th, 2025, at GameStop Staten Island, New York location. Item 1, the black stapler. The black stapler used by GameStop associate who, in the moment of launch night excitement and misjudged enthusiasm, stapled a receipt directly to the customer's new Switch 2 box, puncturing both the cardboard and screen in one swift motion. Item 2, the first stapled Nintendo Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 2 console serial number, when they have the serial number there, was the recipient of the above aforementioned staple. Refurbished by GameStop, the screen has been repaired and is ready to play. It is the first known console that officially was stapled during the product launch. Item 3, the box. The original retail packaging from the same console with the staple mark clearly visible, while the box is otherwise intact. The puncture serves as a permanent proof of Staplegate's origin. And then finally, item 4, the staple. Carefully extracted and preserved, this is the actual staple that pierced both box and screen. Bent from impact and removed during the incident investigation, it has been archived in an individual display pouch. This 3/8 steel wire fastener is now a tiny twisted piece of GameStop lore. The items are being auctioned as a set to raise funds for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. While the incident itself was unfortunate, we hope that the legacy serves for a greater purpose. So, I will say that this is, I mean, honestly, out of all the things that GameStop has done, the least shady thing they've ever done. Oh my god. So at the time of the article being written, it was only at about $6,000. Now it's at, hold on, $249,900 with 284 bids on it. Now I do genuinely hope that whoever is bidding this thing up actually pays out the money to go to charity. I hope that's like maybe it's a big corporation or maybe a big time influencer, who knows. That is what I hope. I hope this money actually gets transferred to the charity. Because as it stands, if Joe Schmo, who is bidding on this just to be a part of it, wins this auction, they're probably going to cancel it. And they're going to be like, I don't have the money for that. Sorry. And they'll redo this whole thing. So I am hoping that this bid actually goes through and gets put to charity. But it's crazy that this many people have come out to support the cause, bid this thing up, and like I said, hopefully it all does go to charity, and everything is good. So I think that it's a funny thing for GameStop to do. I think that it's also a genuinely nice thing for them to do. Take this moment that was a bit of a crazy, controversial thing, and then turn it into something for good. I think that's great of them to do, and we'll see what it sells for when the auction ends, which the auction ends in 3 days. So on Wednesday, the auction will end. So we'll see what it sells for then. All right, Crocs is launching its first ever collaboration with Animal Crossing. These Crocs are going to be out next month. They look pretty cool if you're an Animal Crossing fan. They're green with a kind of like a sand colored, maybe like a beige lining. And then there's water, like a water texture, blue water texture underneath that. So it kind of reminds you of the New Horizons islands that you create. Of course, there's little tree patterns on the top as well. These will launch on August 26 in the U.S., and there will be adult and child versions of the footwear. The new collection will feature little charms for Tom Nook and his kids, KK Slider, a couple houses in the game, as well as Isabella. So all those characters will be available to purchase. Will be included with the original Crocs. There will also be 2 separate sets that you can purchase separately for about $16. Okay. So it's $16.99 for the pack, or you can purchase them separately, individually for $5 each. Okay. So there's the 2 separate packs include more characters and more stuff that you can, of course, kit out your Crocs with. The Crocs themselves, the adult size will go for $70, and the child edition will go for $55. So if you're a big Animal Crossing fan, this might be something that you want to get. It seems like it's going to be a fun little Animal Crossing thing. As a person who recently started wearing Crocs, yes, I know, I got the Shrek Crocs for my birthday. Honestly, I get the hype. They're comfortable. They're functional. I know I'm cringe, but look, I'm a believer now. Shrek. I don't wear Crocs and socks. I think that's still kind of cringe. But I think that in general, I've actually had a good time wearing the Crocs, okay? And I will admit that. So if you want your own Animal Crossing platform clogs for adults or for kids, check it out in local footwear stores. I believe like Dick's sells them and probably a bunch of shoe stores. But anyway, that's the news for today. Let's move on to what's coming soon. All right, Ghost of Yotei had its direct this past week, and it showed off a lot of gameplay, a lot of systems, and a lot of things that you may be interested in. I would definitely recommend checking out the entire State of Play direct deep dive, whatever you want to call it. It's about 20 minutes long, and it goes over pretty much everything that you might have questions about. The main thing is that the map has been changed a bit. They're going to be doing this new clue system. And as a person who played Assassin's Creed Shadows for quite some time, I really hated the clue system in that game. I'm hoping that they do it better than that game. And I feel like they already are doing it better than that game. The fact that you can, like, fight enemies and interrogate them for knowledge of the surrounding area, and then as you collect clues, they can form into, like, a location on the map. It'll actually show you where it is. So that's a good thing in my opinion. Okay, not like the fact that you don't just have to randomly wander across the map and hope that you find the right location. You'll actually get a bit of guidance there. Also, they showed off there's like a wolf that'll follow you around, as we kind of knew, but there's also going to be like a bear or something like that, and they will actually help you with defeating enemies. And actually, you know, those moments where you're facing off against an enemy and you press the button at the right time to slice them real quick and kill them instantly, the wolf and the bear will actually help you in that, which is kind of cool too. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Really, like, changes things up a bit. And of course, as you gather your clues in the game, you'll fight the like samurai type character, like the boss characters in the game essentially, and you'll get money for defeating specific bounties and stuff like that. But of course, you get the most money from defeating the enemies that really matter to you in the whole thing. Photo mode is going to be in the game right away, so you don't have to wait for that. The altars and stuff like that are all back to upgrade your character. The open world looks beautiful in the game, by the way. Like, just scrubbing through the video, it just looks so beautiful. It just oh man, this is going to be a great game. I can already tell. The soundtrack also completely redone for this game, using authentic weapons, instruments for the time, which is also pretty cool. It seems like the entire game has been not just like redone, but updated to this new style and this new way. Now, obviously, there's going to be some things that are the same. Of course, I feel like a lot of the stealth is probably going to be the same or whatever. But you know, you're going to be getting some new weapons, which I think is going to be pretty fun, pretty cool. And you also, of course, have new abilities as well. They also showed off that there will be different experiences. Samurai Cinema is going to be introduced, or is going to be from the day one. You'll be able to play in a more cinematic mode, or original Japanese voice acting as opposed to English voice acting, etc., etc. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a pretty great experience. Sucker Punch, I believe, has designed this world to be very natural to progress through. And yeah, we'll have to see what that all entails, of course. But I think that for the most part, this is going to be a fantastic experience. Still coming October 7th. Astrobot keeps giving us things to do, and a new level has been released, and a new character has been made available to save. If you want to know the character's name, don't click ahead. But if you do want to know what did I say? If you don't want to know the character's name, click ahead like 10 seconds when I tell you to. If you do want to know the name or don't care, then you don't have to do anything like that. The new map is called High Inflation, and it's a free update, so it's a free level. And the character that you get from this one, skip ahead 10 or 15 seconds, is Cloud Strife. Cloud is joining the game, which is pretty cool. For people have been waiting for this character to be in the game for quite some time, since of course Astrobot started. But now, officially, he is in the game. And we'll see if they add any more characters from this series in the future. So, yeah, pretty cool there. If you want to check out that new level, like I said, it's available right now. And you can check it out, see how that goes. And you can also save that new character too. All right, NBA 2K26. That's going to be coming around soon. They revealed the cover athletes for the game, and the cover athlete for the regular and the deluxe edition of the game is Shai Gilgeous Alexander, or SGA, as he's more commonly known. He's going to grace the cover on the regular and deluxe editions of the game. The GameStop exclusive WNBA edition of the game is going to have Angel Reese on the cover, and the Hall of Fame edition is going to be getting Carmelo Anthony, who will be heading up the Superstar edition, not the Hall of Fame edition, the Superstar edition. There's also going to be a Leave No Doubt edition of the game, which will feature both SGA and Carmelo Anthony on the cover, but that'll only be available for a limited time. I think that's pretty cool. They're doing an official WNBA cover, GameStop exclusive, which is kind of weird, but still, I think that's a pretty cool thing. Personally, I'm not going to buy 2K26. I don't really like the basketball games. I tried 2K25 this past like a week or so ago. I'm just not really into the basketball games. They're fine for what they are, but I'm not really into them. Yeah, if you're excited for this, let's go over the editions of the game. So the standard edition is going to cost $70. It will come to most platforms. The WNBA edition is going to be $70 as well. It'll be a North American only release, and it'll only be a next-gen version of the game, and GameStop will be the only place you can buy that. The Superstar Edition will be $100. This edition will include 100,000 VC, which is the currency in the game, My Career content, including 25 6 types of skill boosts, 25 3 types of Gatorade boosts, Cover Star jersey, a 2-hour 2XP coin, as well as more My Team content, including a full NBA Series 1 team selection, triple threat park free Asian pack, 5 Series 1 packs, 2-hour double XP tokens for that. Superstar Edition will be available to play 1 week before the worldwide release of the game in early access. And then finally, the Leave No Doubt Edition will be $150. This edition includes everything in the Superstar Edition plus 35,000 extra VC, a Season 1 Pro Pass, and a Summer Pass. Season 7 through 9 Pro Pass scheduled to release in summer of 26. The Leave No Doubt My Team Pack, which includes a Galaxy Opal card and an Invincible card, as well as a puffer jacket in the My Career NBA 2K25 players who pre-ordered the Leave No Doubt edition will also get the platform, on the same platform will receive a 10% discount. The Leave No Doubt edition will be available to play 1 week before the worldwide release. Holy crap. So I guess the two different colors, it's not a deluxe edition, it's just the PS5 and PS4 color covers are a bit different with the same athlete on the front. My bad. So, yeah, there you go. Like I said, I think there's some cool things going on here with the covers of the game. I think that a WNBA specific cover is pretty cool. I think they did that for 25 as well. I forget, though. I think it's kind of crazy that they're doing a $150 edition of the game that does not actually give you anything physically. I mean, they obviously get the disc, but everything in there is all digital. So you're spending $150 for digital content. Same thing with the $100 edition. You're essentially paying to play the game a week early plus some extra incentives, which, as you know, I think is a shady practice. I don't like that they are hiding these week early access or whatever before just under this price. And it all started with EA. It all started with Battlefield 3, or 4. I think it was Battlefield 4. It all started back then. And it just got worse from there. But if you're excited about this, the game will be coming out relatively soon, on September 5th. That'll be coming out. Okay, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound had a 15-minute gameplay showcase, which was pretty good. I will say it was pretty good. Now, I'm already sold in this game simply because it's coming from the same developers as Blasphemous. But if you want to check out the gameplay, it is on Dotamu's YouTube channel. If you check it out, you'll see the basic graphics and gameplay style of the game. Also, they go through an entire I don't know, it's like a building that's under construction. They go through an entire level, and then they also show the boss fight at the end, which is pretty crazy as well. The soundtrack banging, the pixel art style looks really good. In the press blurb, they said follow Kamori and Kenji while they navigate a high-rise building under construction, teeming with demons. As the ninjas ascend the skeletal tower, they're relentlessly hunted by Rivashi, the level's boss, who tries to thwart their progress with the brutal area attacks. Players must master precision and timing to evade these attacks while simultaneously eliminating enemies. So there you go. Once again, I think it looks really good. I think it's definitely worth checking out, at least the video. But also, I think the game is going to be very much worth checking out in general. So if you want to check that out, this game is also coming soon. I believe it's coming at the end of July 31st. If you want to get the physical edition of the game, that is not coming out until later in the year. You know, I think it'll be I think it'll be worth it to pick this game up. I think it looks really good. So there you go. Also, Xbox is sending Stalker 2 over to PS5 later this year with PS5 Pro improvements. This is a pretty interesting turn of events. The game pretty much just came out last year, right? But yeah, it'll be coming to PlayStation eventually in the future. The official trailer announcement didn't have a release date, but they did say that it is going to be coming in 2025 to PlayStation consoles, but only PlayStation 5, not PS4. And there will be, like I said, pro versions of the game to play as well. So there'll be pro enhancements of the game. I should say pro enhancements for the game. Now, those things have not been detailed as of yet, but yeah, Stalker 2 coming to PlayStation 5 later this year. Time Flies is a game about a bug. Now, this is a game that I've actually been following for quite some time. Time Flies, I believe they originally announced this like 3 years ago, and I was enamored by this. It's a very basic art style, just like line drawings and like paint, you might want to say. And he plays this little fly who only lives for like a couple minutes, right? And you need to do things in that time frame in that couple minutes. And I think that's a really interesting and funny concept. But essentially, you play as an annoying bug going around in a house and just kind of trying to do things. In a press release, they said, learn an instrument, read a book, become rich, get drunk, or make someone smile. And if you don't feel like pursuing your goals, you can just relax, clean your wings, and listen to music. Make the best of the time you have left, because we're all going to die. The game is going to launch on July 31st, same day as Ragebound, unfortunately, for $15. And you get a 10% discount if you pre-order before release. Flies are pretty annoying, and we've been listening to one every day for the past 4 years of game development. This is coming from developer Michael Fry. Please do your part and wishlist the game now. I really need therapy. So yeah, he's essentially throughout development of the game just been listening to that fly for constantly. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a pretty fun concept. I think it's going to be a pretty funny game. And if you want to check it out, the trailer, it's on Panic's YouTube channel. Yeah, once again, I think this is gonna be a pretty funny game, pretty fun game. Pretty, obviously the something like graphically and stuff like that. It's nothing to really write home about, but I think it's a pretty cool concept, something that we really haven't seen before. And if you want to compare it to Mr. Mosquito, I don't think you can do that. But if you want to, I guess the comparison is that you're a tiny bug flying around a house, and that's pretty much the only comparison. All right, Rare, after the round of layoffs, had a bit of a spiteful a community direct for Sea of Thieves. If you want to watch the Sea of Thieves direct, just go to the Sea of Thieves YouTube channel and check that out. So they started off by kind of doing a look back through the history of Sea of Thieves, and then they have a new policy that they're going to be enforcing into the game. So they're talking about the next seasons of content. They want to make sure that they have continuity between them. So they want to make sure that the seasons kind of link together, because before it's kind of been a bit random. They had a Pirates of the Caribbean thing, they had a whatever theme, but they want to make sure that things are continuity is lining up. They also want to make sure that features from past ones come back so that you can get the full-blown Sea of Thieves experience. Also, they admitted that they missed the mark on the last season. People had some complaints about that, so they apologized about that, and they talked about how they're going to move forward with better content in the year ahead. Also, they're not under an NDA anymore, which is kind of crazy. So they can just kind of talk about anything that they want to talk about, and more information obviously is within the direct itself. As I said, season 17 is going to have a new seasonal format where things link together and things are continuative. If that's the word I'm talking about? The next one is going to be called Devil's Roar, and then season 18 and beyond that they have not talked too much about just yet. Also, custom Cs will be made available. You'll be able to buy a private custom server in 2026, which is pretty crazy. You know, going back to like the Battlefield days where you could buy a server and play with your friends, right? Well, now Sea of Thieves, you'll be able to get a paid custom server, a private server if you want it to be, that'll be in 2026. So, yeah, I mean, this all comes off of the back of the game that they were working on, Everwild being canceled, people being laid off at the studio. Sea of Thieves obviously is still pumping out money, so Xbox didn't really touch them. But this was kind of a spiteful direct, I will say. Like they definitely opened the books and they've let it all spill out. So if you want to check that out, like I said, it's on Sea of Thieves YouTube channel. Lots of good stuff in there if you're a fan of Sea of Thieves. I haven't played Sea of Thieves since it came out, so I'm a bit out of the loop. But yeah, definitely I think worth your time if you are a Sea of Thieves fan. A new PSVR 2 game has been announced called Hide the Corpse. Now, I don't normally talk about PSVR games anymore because honestly I haven't played mine in about 2 years now. But Hide the Corpse is looking like a pretty interesting game. Essentially what you do is in an 80s vibe style kind of game, you hide a corpse of somebody that you just murdered and you try not to get caught by the police. So you try and hide the body as best you can in cabinets with dress them up like a mannequin. There's also special things that can happen, like the character will fart every so often and cause them to move around, so you got to really try and hide them as best as you can. And the better that you hide them, the better score that you get. And, of course, don't get caught by the police. This is coming soon, to be announced, of course, but it's coming soon on August 18th, and we will see how that goes. In a press release, they said Hide the Corpse is the chaotic and quirky VR-bodied hiding sandbox is launching on PlayStation. As a player, you'll be tasked with stashing a body in one of six stages during a 4-minute window. Don't get caught. So yeah, that's coming soon. If you want to check that out, the video is available on PlayStation's YouTube channel right now. A game called Griffin is getting its first worldwide Western release, which is pretty crazy. This game originally came out in 1991 exclusively to Japan, made by Telenet. It was never released outside of Japan until now. Ratalaika Games has been the one behind the emulation process of the game, and they are going to be putting it onto all different systems all across the world. You can buy it now for $7 if you so desire. In a press release, they said a nation developed by Griffin battle tank as a countermeasure against the growing power of a neighboring country. However, the chief engineer of the project was kidnapped during testing. His granddaughter then boards the Griffin and begins her solo mission to rescue her grandfather. And this granddaughter in question is a busty blue-haired anime girl. So, anime fans rejoice. Obviously, this retains its 90s aesthetic. It also kind of reminded me of Xevious. The gameplay itself reminded me a bit of Xevious. This might be a game that I check out in the near future just to see how it is. I mean, the gameplay looks good. It's essentially a scrolling game, kind of like Xevious or the 1940 series. But of course, it does feature a hot anime girl. So there's your incentive for buying the game, I guess. But yeah, it is available right now if you want to check that out. Griffin, available on pretty much all platforms. So there you go. And finally for today, here are 10 new PlayStation Plus Extra games and 2 new premium games coming in July. You'll be able to download these or play these on July 15th. The new PlayStation Plus Extra games are Cyberpunk 2077, Abiotic Factor, Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, Bluey the Video Game, Planet Zoo, Risk of Rain 2, Tropico 6, and New World Aeternum. Cyberpunk is a big get here, and they also reduced the price of the DLC while it's on PlayStation Plus Extra, so that's pretty cool. Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, good game from last year, really enjoyable. Bluey the Video Game, need I say more? Planet Zoo is also a pretty fun experience as well. Then here are the 2 PlayStation Plus premium games coming in July. They are Twisted Metal 3 and 4, so you'll be able to play those 2 if you so desire. I believe they also have full trophy support. I believe Twisted Metal 3 and 4, this is the first time that they are releasing outside of the US and Japan. So European audiences will be able to play Twisted Metal 3 and 4 for the first time, which is pretty cool. All right, folks, that'll do it for today's episode. Appreciate you listening to this podcast. Of course, if you want to check it out, every week we do these, so I would appreciate any follows, any ratings, likes on the YouTube video, of course, as well. Always appreciated. Let's go ahead and move on to the song of the day. If you know the song's name and the game that it came from, let me know in the comments below or on Discord in the Fair 64 section or on the Spotify versions as well. If you know the name of the song and the game that it came from, I'll give you a like or a heart in the comments on YouTube and a congratulations. Or if you go over to the Discord, I'll give you a super reaction and you will get the admiration of your peers. Let's listen to today's song right now.
This is my escape. I'm running through this world and I'm not looking back. 'Cause I know I can go where no one's ever gone and I'm not looking.
All right, once again, if you know the name of the song or the game that came from, let me know down below or in Discord. Link down below. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening. I am Yemmy the Ferret. You can check me out anywhere at Yemmy the Ferret on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Blue Sky, etc. Links are all in the description. If you want to follow me on Twitch, I stream on Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Right now we're playing Sonic games. The next game is Sonic 06, which should be an interesting time. I also have another podcast called Film Freaks where we talk about movies. The latest episode is about The Majestic from 2001. If you want to check that out, that just freshly launched on Friday. That's a bi-weekly podcast. And then also I do Foo Bar Ferret, which is a monthly podcast. Most recent episode came out like a week or so ago. If you want to check that out. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk at you next week. So long.
The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. Small sound clips used throughout the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. The song in the intro and outro is Nightshade by Adhesive Wombat. The Ferret 64 logo was made by Player2P2. News sources include PushSquare.com, NintendoLife.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions, video game related, are my own. Thank you for listening.